Welcome back, my friends, to TFT Hyper Roll with Artart. Back in the long ago when I had the other channel and augments first came into being in Season 6, my advice for how to climb was to build based on your augments, items, and champions. This video is more of an example of doing that in this set, which is hard to do because there are some augments that just in and of themselves say, nope, you're doing this, and some portals that kind of demand you to do certain builds.
We'll be covering that a lot more in an upcoming video, but before any of that, graphic, you know what I'm gonna say, don't you? Can you just hear it in your head? Okay, hear it in your head, and then do it, and now let's get started. So the items I got out of the NPC round make a Titan's Resolve. I then got a Garen, then had the opportunity to pick up You Have My Sword. For me, the two key items on Garen are Titan's Resolve and Bloodthirster. That will make sort of the perfect combination. There are other opportunities to speed up his attack throughout gameplay. We will get to them, but we are headed into Demacia. Now, the reality is Demacia is going to rely on a lot of RNG because the champs are going to get radiant items, and what those radiant items are is going to help decide whether you win or not. You can stack things a little bit by getting the right support items around them, but ultimately, what item they get as radiant is going to be the key. I used to clump them together. I find, at least in the early stages, it doesn't really help. It's only 5 additional armor and magic resist, so you might as well go with a more traditional frontline backline setup. And this is what I mean in terms of the RNG. Last time, Garen got a healing item, so was able to stay healthy much easier. This time, Giant Slayer, no healing. Garen goes down much quicker and we lose the match. One good thing with Thresh's Sanctum and Demacia is you're going to get a lot of components throughout the rest of the match as you get the required number of souls. That's going to help you pull off a couple of tricks that I'll show you later on that will help take some of the RNG out of the Demacian build. There are certain parts of this build I consider essential. One of them is Rage Blade or Rage Blades onto Kayle, because you're going to want Kayle attacking very fast towards the end of the match. Sona plays an important part in this build because her ult will speed up champions that it goes over, and Garen with additional attack speed will spin more often, so you want to get additional speed onto Garen, but not necessarily from items on Garen. This second augment changes my plans just a tiny bit. I'm going to go ahead and roll everything, but I'm kind of set on healing orbs. And the reason is, Garen's going to be in the face of a lot of champions. The way healing orbs work is that it heals the closest champion. So I don't necessarily need as much healing on Garen anymore because he's going to get healed when things around him fall. I went ahead and put the Zeke's Herald onto Galio, so that will give Garen more innate attack speed, and again, I'm keeping Sona behind him so that she will ult through him, giving him more attack speed as well. And the reason Kayle gets Rage Blades galore is because towards the latter part of the game, Kayle is going to start shredding magic resist, which is going to be key for when Lux comes into the picture. Starting in stage 6, every third attack from Kayle is going to shred magic resist, so I've now stacked a second Rage Blade onto Kayle, so she is attacking a lot more quickly. Also, Garen is getting sped up by Sona, and you can see it generally working. But sometimes, just as you're picking up momentum and think you got it, you run into a tree, a gold 3-star tree in this case, and that will stop us in our tracks as we are not going to get through that Maokai. It is now time for our final augment, and we're going to get the Petricite Shackles, which is the Demacian specific one. It's one of my least favorite trait-specific augments, and I would not use it as a sign to go into Demacia, but if you're already there, then you can go ahead and use it
simply because it will give you additional damage. Now there are 7 Demacians, so you're going to need 2 additional champions to fill out the build. I use Taric and Soraka, and that is because it gives you 3 things. It gives you Sorcerer once you bring in Lux, it gives you Targon with the 2 of them, and it's going to give you Invoker along with Galio, so you are getting a lot of support traits that will end up helping the team. Also, Soraka's healing is really good. That's going to help out along with healing orbs, just keeping our champions up, and as you can see, helping us win. And you'll see here again how well healing orbs ends up working out. Although Garen did end up with a radiant healing item, it's going to be a lot of those little 300 heals coming in that keeps him up long enough to make it a backline fight that we end up winning. So you probably know this, but if you ever want a particular Demacian to stop being the elite, you can put a 3rd item on them. Pull them off, put the 3rd item on them. Now they will no longer be one of the elites and someone else will get the radiant item. In this case, that goes over to Galio. We'll likely want to move it to Lux by adding an item to her as soon as we can. The items pop up and I'm immediately in Wish I Had Waited territory because I put the Spear of Sojin onto Lux and now I get offered a blue buff, which is a much better item for her. I have 2 magnetic removers, so I can go ahead and do this if I want. My original plan was just to keep Lux in, put both on her for now, because that would give her the elite status and the radiant item. But when I 2-star the Jarvan, it's time to put him in, grab a Dragon's Claw, put it on him, now he's elite. Stage 8 is a very strange place for this build because you either break up one of your support traits like Bastion or Invoker and go to the 7 Demacians, or you hope that it's going to carry through as is. You take your best guess, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But you take your hints from the game. Once we 2-starred the Lux, it was time to pull out Soraka for a fight, put Lux in and hope she can carry us into stage 9 when we can have the complete team. And sure enough, yep, Lux takes over the damage charts and leads us into the top 4, actually top 3. During the NPC round, we found our gold 3-star Garen, so that forms. We're gonna grab a 3rd Rage Blade for Kale. That will mean that Kale is no longer the elite. Pull her off, put the Rage Blade on, put her back in. It will transfer the elite status now over to Sona, which is great. We can pick up the Hextech Gunblade as the final item for Lux, and now the build is all set. We have our 7 Demacians, we have the right champions being elite. We just give Taric some Thieves' Gloves as just a final part of the build. And of course, there is always the Challenger Ionia team, pretty much in every top 4, which is why I keep telling people to go for it. But we're positioned really well. Kale is now shredding magic resist with every single attack, which is allowing Lux and her to dominate. Thresh gave us one last item, which allows us to make another Deathblade, and although it doesn't really fit what J4 does, we can put it on him anyway. It's not really going to hurt anything. And if we stand a chance of winning, we're going to have to find a way to chop down that gold 3-star tree that got through us so much earlier. The key is now we have Kale shredding magic and Lux just being able to dole it out as she ended up with a glamorous gauntlet. Remember, RNG is going to help you in this big time, and you can see that allows Lux to carry us to victory. Go for Demacia if you get a clear sign, you get the right items at the right time. It should work out pretty well for you. Hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have an absolutely awesome day.